My wife said, "You're not fun anymore. I want a trial separation." I said, "Done." Then I began the methodical process of separating our lives. Weeks later, her new life crashed down in panic. I'm 42 male, a data analyst. My life is built on logic, on predictable patterns and calculated outcomes. I find a deep sense of comfort and stability. My wife Kelly, 38, used to claim she did too. For 15 years she called me her rock. That was my role. I provided, I supported, I maintained the steady, predictable rhythm of our life so she could pursue an ever-changing series of passions. First a pottery business that hemorrhaged money, then becoming a part-time yoga instructor. I paid the mortgage, I handled the investments, I managed the health insurance. I saw it as a partnership. My role was to build the ship. Hers was to be the sail. Last Thursday, the sail decided the ship was a prison. She sat me down in our living room, the one she'd had professionally redecorated in calming neutral tones last fall. She wouldn't meet my eyes, focusing instead on a decorative vase that cost more than my first car. "Peter," she started, her voice adopting a soft, therapeutic cadence that always signaled an incoming emotional missile. "I need some space. I feel like I'm losing myself, you know?" I didn't respond. I waited. The preamble is for the speaker's comfort, not the listener's. "You're a good man," she continued, a verbal pat on the head. "A wonderful provider, but you're not fun anymore. We're not fun. Everything is so planned, so safe. I need to feel alive again. I need to find my own path." I stared at the expensive, non-structural wooden beam she'd insisted we install over the media center. It had cost me my entire annual bonus, a monument to aesthetics over function. In that moment, watching her talk about fun in the very lap of the security I'd spent my adult life building, something didn't break in me. It calcified. All the little dissonant data points, the secretive, giggly texting at all hours, the new expensive workout clothes from brands I'd never heard of, the sudden intense reverence for a spiritual guru named Zachary, who also happened to be her new tennis partner, they all snapped from a random scatterplot into a perfectly linear regression. The conclusion was obvious and devastating. I looked at her, really looked at her, as if for the first time in years. Her $200 leggings, the fresh manicure on the hand that hadn't worn a wedding ring in 2 weeks because it interfered with her energy flow. She was waiting for me to beg, to promise more excitement, to book a trip to Bali, to become someone I'm not. "Done," I said. The word was a stone thrown into a still pond. It wasn't the reaction her script called for. Her brow furrowed. "Done? Just like that? You're not even gonna fight for us?" "You just told me you want a trial separation," I replied, my voice chillingly level. "I'm agreeing to your terms. This is what you want. You should be happy." "Well, yes, but..." She was flustered, like an actor whose scene partner has skipped to the final monologue. "Okay, well, good. I'm gonna go pack." She went upstairs. I didn't follow. I listened to the sounds of drawers opening and closing, the sounds of my life being dismantled. For a long moment, I felt a surge of white-hot rage. I wanted to throw that stupid vase against the wall. Then came a wave of immense, crushing sadness. I thought about the girl I married, the one who was thrilled to eat cheap pizza on the bare floor of our first tiny apartment. Where did she go? I let myself feel it all for about an hour. The anger, the grief, I let it wash over me. And then I let it pass. What was left was a cold, hard clarity. This wasn't a trial, this was an ambush, and I would not be its victim. I pulled out my phone. My mind was already working. A separation is a legal event. It has rules, it has consequences. She wanted a new life. I would simply facilitate its authentic beginning. My first call wasn't to a bank. It was to a highly recommended family law attorney, Victoria. I got her voicemail, left a concise message, and received an email a half-hour later to schedule a consultation for the next morning. The next day, after a sleepless night, I sat in Victoria's office. I explained the situation. She listened intently, her face impassive. When I finished, she gave me clear, methodical advice, not for revenge, but for protection. "The moment of separation is a critical legal marker, Peter," she said. "Your actions from this point forward must be transparent and defensible." Guided by her counsel, I spent the rest of that Friday taking careful, deliberate steps. Financial separation. As advised, I opened a new, individual checking account. I didn't drain the account she used, as that could be seen as financial abuse. Instead, I left a significant cushion, $4,000, in the old account to serve as a transitional buffer. I then transferred the remainder of the funds, my savings from my salary, to my new secure account. I updated my direct deposit with HR to route all future paychecks to this new account. I documented the exact time and date of the transfer, noting it was post-separation. Credit disentanglement. I am the primary holder on our main credit card. Kelly was a supplementary user. I called the company, informed them of our legal separation, and had her card immediately deactivated. I assumed responsibility for the full outstanding balance, nearly $8,000. It was a clean, legal amputation. The benefits time bomb. I logged into my employer's HR portal. I updated my marital status to legally separated. This triggered the qualifying life event. The system confirmed the change and informed me that spousal benefits for Kelly would be terminated effective the last day of the current month. It was June 15th. She had 15 days of coverage left. A notification regarding COBRA continuation coverage, the system noted, would be mailed to our home address within 10 business days. This was the most critical step. Her prescription for Maxalt, for her chronic migraines, costs over $600 a month out of pocket. Kelly came by Saturday to pick up more of her things. She was breezy, acting as if this was all a grand adventure. "Hope you're not too lonely rattling around in this big old house," she said with a pitying smile. "I'm managing," I said. "By the way, I've started the formal process. Just wanted you to know." "Process? What process?" she asked, distracted, looking at her phone. "The separation," I said. "Legal stuff. Lawyers? You'll probably want to talk to one." She just laughed. "Oh, Peter. So dramatic. It's a trial. We'll talk in a few weeks." She had no idea. She thought the rock would just sit here, waiting patiently while she went exploring. She was wrong. Update 1. It took about 5 days for the first tremors to hit her new reality. The trigger was, as expected, the credit card. I got a text on Wednesday. "Kelly, this is so weird. My card was just declined at Lululemon. The girl at the counter was so rude about it. Can you call them? I think their system is down." Me, there's no system error. I canceled your supplementary card last week. We're separated, Kelly. Our finances are separate now too. You did what? Peter, I needed that outfit. How could you do that without talking to me? I did talk to you. I told you I was starting the legal process. This is part of it. You can use the debit card for now. The 3 dots on her message bubble appeared and disappeared for a long time. She was likely checking the balance of the old account. The $4,000 buffer seems to have kept her from immediate panic, but the message was clear. The endless river of cash had been dammed. The main event, the full-blown earthquake, happened this morning. My doorbell rang at 9 a.m. on Saturday. It was Kelly, and she'd brought her mother, Joyce, for reinforcement. Joyce is a woman who believes Kelly's whims are divine proclamations, and my purpose on earth is to fund them. "Peter, I demand you explain this," Joyce commanded as she marched into my foyer. Kelly stood behind her, arms crossed, radiating self-righteous fury. "You canceled her credit card. Are you trying to humiliate her?" "I'm establishing financial boundaries, which is standard procedure in a legal separation," I said calmly. Kelly finally exploded. "Standard procedure? This isn't a business merger. This is my life. You're trying to control me, to punish me for wanting more than this boring, predictable life." "I'm not punishing you," I said, my voice flat. "I'm giving you exactly what you asked for. You wanted a different life. You wanted to be on your own path. I am simply letting you experience the full reality of that choice. The predictable life you find so boring also happened to pay for everything." I let that hang in the air for a moment before delivering the final, crucial piece of information. "And since we're discussing logistics," I continued, looking directly at Kelly, "I need to formally notify you of something. I informed my employer of our separation. As a result, your eligibility for my health, dental, and vision insurance will terminate at the end of this month. That's 10 days from now. You'll receive a COBRA packet in the mail that explains how you can continue the coverage at your own expense." The color drained from Kelly's face. Joyce just looked confused. "What does that mean?" Joyce asked. Kelly answered, her voice a strangled whisper. "My migraine prescription, Peter, they told me it's over $600 a month without your insurance." "That's correct," I confirmed. "So you'll need to budget for that. The Cobra premium for the full plan will likely be around $900 a month. Joyce gasped. That's monstrous. You can't do that to her. She has a medical condition. She's a 38-year-old adult who has chosen to separate from the husband who provided her insurance, I stated, refusing to be drawn into hysterics. This is a natural consequence. She wanted to find her own way. This is wayfinding 101. This isn't you, Peter. You're being cruel, Kelly cried, tears of rage and panic welling in her eyes. I'm going to call a lawyer. You'll be hearing from them. I would expect nothing less, I said. I've already retained counsel myself. Her name is Victoria. The fact that I already had a lawyer, that I was 2 steps ahead of her, seemed to stun her more than anything else. She stared at me, her mind clearly reeling, trying to reconcile the predictable rock she'd left with the cold, calculating stranger standing before her. She grabbed her mother's arm and stormed out. The war has begun. Update 2. The initial skirmishes have given way to the slow, grinding machinery of the legal process. As promised, I heard from Kelly's lawyer about 2 weeks after our confrontation. The letter I received was a masterpiece of creative writing. It painted me as a cruel and manipulative monster who, in a punitive rage, had maliciously cut off his emotionally fragile wife to force her into submission. It demanded I immediately reinstate all financial support, pay for her legal fees, and it outlined an outrageous demand for long-term spousal support. I forwarded it to Victoria, who was completely unfazed. It's a standard shock and awe tactic, she explained over the phone. They're loud and aggressive, hoping you'll panic and settle for a bad deal. We will respond with calm, documented facts. And we did. Our response, which took her several days to meticulously craft, was a quiet work of art. We calmly refuted every claim, not stating that I had acted responsibly, and upon legal advice to separate our finances, following Kelly's abandonment of the marital home. We made it clear we would not be reinstating any funds. Then came the counteroffensive. I had taken a gamble and hired a private investigator. It wasn't cheap, and it took him 3 days of surveillance, but the results were worth every single penny. He provided a detailed report complete with time-stamped photos of Kelly and Zachary entering and leaving his apartment over several nights, and a clear shot of them having a romantic breakfast on his balcony. We attached the PI's report to our response. We also attached the text message from Zachary. We formally stated that Kelly had entered into an adulterous relationship, which was the true cause of the separation. But Victoria didn't stop there. She added a devastatingly effective legal motion. We filed for discovery, claiming dissipation of marital assets. We alleged that for months, Kelly had been using marital funds, my income, to finance her affair. We subpoenaed her bank records, and crucially, we subpoenaed Zachary. We wanted to see his financial records to determine how much of my money had been spent on gifts, dinners, and trips for him. The reaction was seismic. About a week after our response was sent, I received a call from a blocked number. It was Zachary. The smug, enlightened guru persona was gone. He sounded like a terrified college kid. Hey man. Peter, I think there's been a huge misunderstanding here, he stammered. I don't think there's been any misunderstanding at all, Zachary, I said, my voice like ice. This is crazy. Your lawyer is subpoenaing me. I'm just a tennis coach, man. I don't want to be dragged into this. It's going to ruin my reputation. Your reputation is your own business. My finances, however, are mine. Kelly spent thousands of dollars on you from an account funded by my salary. My lawyer sees that as fraudulent. You are now a material witness in a divorce proceeding. You can either cooperate or you can explain to a judge why you shouldn't have to. I heard him take a shaky breath. She said you guys were over, that it was just a matter of time. Then you'll have no problem stating that under oath in a deposition, I said. And then I hung up. The entitlement has finally smashed against the hard wall of consequence. Kelly and her mother have been calling non-stop, leaving rambling, hysterical voicemails. 1 minute they're threatening me with eternal damnation. The next they're crying, saying I'm destroying her life and that this isn't the man she married. She's right. The man she married would have absorbed this betrayal and quietly suffered. The man she left behind is simply running the data, and the data is not in her favor. Final update. It's over. The divorce was finalized 2 weeks ago. The The whole process took just under 8 months, which Victoria tells me is practically light speed for a contentious divorce. It didn't end in a dramatic courtroom finale. It ended when their entire case collapsed under its own weight. Zachary was the linchpin. The threat of a deposition, of having his finances publicly scrutinized and his role in the affair laid bare under oath, was too much for him. He capitulated completely. His lawyer reached out to Victoria and offered a full, signed affidavit in exchange for being dropped from the proceedings. He detailed the entire affair, confirming it began long before the separation. He wanted out, and he was willing to burn Kelly to the ground to get there. With her infidelity proven and her financial claims exposed as a sham, Kelly's leverage vanished. Her pit bull lawyer, seeing a losing and expensive case, aggressively pushed her to settle. Here are the final consequences. The house, we sold it. As our primary marital asset, the equity was split 50-50, as per state law. My share was enough to secure a down payment on a comfortable, if smaller, condo. Her share was a substantial one-time payment, the last she'll ever receive from me. Spousal support. This was her last stand, and it failed. Due to the clear evidence of infidelity and her dissipation of our assets, the judge awarded her only 2 years of minimal rehabilitative alimony. It's barely enough to cover the rent on a basic apartment and is explicitly intended to support her while she finds full-time employment. The fun is officially unfunded. The assets. Our dissipation claim was successful. Based on bank records, we proved she'd spent over $15,000 on her affair. That amount was deducted directly from her half of the house equity and awarded to me. In the end, she paid me back for financing her own betrayal. The lives they chose have now fully materialized. Kelly is renting a small apartment. She works as a full-time office manager for a landscaping company. Her social media is now mostly generic inspirational quotes. Zachary, I've heard, broke up with her the moment his legal troubles began and has struggled to retain clients at his club. Reputations are indeed fragile. Joyce now has a financially and emotionally dependent daughter who is deeply unhappy with her new, non-glamorous life. As for me, I'm healing. It's an active process. The first few months were a grim exercise in legal strategy, but once the dust settled, I had to confront the 15-year hole in my life. I found a good therapist to help me process the sheer scale of the deception. It's not about anger anymore. It's about understanding how I let myself become so complacent, how I ignored so many red flags. My new condo is my sanctuary. It's quiet, it's filled with my books, my old comfortable armchair, and a ridiculously complex German coffee maker that Kelly would have called hideous. It makes a perfect cup of coffee every morning. That simple, predictable pleasure feels more like fun to me than anything I've experienced in years. I've started hiking on weekends, something Kelly always despised. The other day, standing on a ridge overlooking the valley, I felt a sense of peace that was so profound it almost brought me to tears. It wasn't the thrill Kelly was chasing. It was something deeper. It was freedom. The rock is no longer an anchor for someone else's ship. It's a mountain, standing on its own.